Recording in progress.
So welcome. Thank you so much to everyone who's able to join us live on this Wednesday morning, and thank you to everyone who's watching the recording, because apparently there was quite a lot of interest in writing wildly. I think maybe that sounds quite sexy. It's certainly fun and I absolutely love it. Just before we start, just a quick intro for those people who I have yet to meet. Familiar faces, and it's lovely to see Sarah. Hi Sarah, I haven't seen you for such a long time. Sarah was one of the mentors on the course that I did my One Spirit training on. So my name's Deb. I am a One Spirit Interfaith Foundation minister, and I am also a Taoist monk. My Taoist name is Xiào Yì, and it's really wonderful to be here with everyone. Today we're doing some wild writing. We will actually be writing, so I hope you have your notebook or something to write on and something to write with. So we will have some actual writing time. A little bit about me and how I happened upon wild writing. The creative soul of me burst out of me when I was 49. So 7 sevens, and there she was, a creative goddess came forth, painting, writing, feeling very untrained, but I think in many ways, or rather than the word but, and in many ways that means I'm untamed, which is I think a very beautiful thing, and certainly that I feel that wildness comes out particularly in my paintings, and so in my creative exploration, which art and creativity are my ministry. I created a 12-week online program called Arts for Awakening, where we combine visual arts and visual creativity with writing as well, and using this practice of wild writing or fast, free flow writing in part of that. And as I deepen into this practice, like that wonderful energy of that wildness just really is, I found, so awakening and so enlivening, and that's why I really wanted to share it. So along that journey, I was really blessed to happen upon Laurie Wagner, who is an American writer who shares this process of what she describes as wild writing. I've also come across it very similar in other forms and slight variations. So we'll do a slight variation of that here today. And I was really blessed to have my first experience of wild writing actually in a group facilitated by Laurie herself. The actual process is one that it really awakens us to those threads or those stories that want to be written, and that maybe we're not quite aware of yet. So we're not aiming to end up with a finished piece of writing today. We're not going to do 20 minutes of writing and then we'll have a book ready for publication, no editing required. It's not that kind of writing. I did write my first book in a single afternoon, not perhaps using this technique. So we are not worried about spelling. We don't care about that today. We are not worried about grammar. We absolutely don't care about that today. We're not worried about sentence structure, and we're certainly not worried about anybody seeing any vulnerable part of us through our writing today, simply because we are not sharing our writing today. There are some circumstances where after a session of wild writing, we would share parts of the writing, or indeed all of the writing, not to be critiqued or commented on, simply to be witnessed. We're not going to do that today. We're simply going to share, after our writing, we'll share on the experience of writing. How did the writing feel for us, or what did it awaken in us, but not the actual content of writing. So unlike other types of journaling, and I am a self-confessed absolute journal addict. I've been journaling for a long time and love it so much. I actually trained as a journal therapist. Coming into my mind now is an ad from, I think, probably the 70s, where it used to say, I liked it so much I bought the company. I can't even remember what it was, but yeah, I love it so much that I decided to do some training in that. So in many types of journaling, we're looking, I've got 2 greyhounds and now one of them's starting to sing, so my apologies if there's a bit of noise. In a lot of forms of journaling, we're reflecting on things that have already happened. Not all types of journaling, but in many forms of journaling or diary keeping or memoir writing, we're writing about things that have already passed, and perhaps our feelings on them, maybe doing some reflection on what could we do differently, or and some like future looking of planning. Or in forms of creative writing, where we're imagining different worlds or characters. And how while writing, the form we're going to do today, differs, is that what we're actually opening ourselves up to is something that is about to come to us, that hasn't come from whatever source we might imagine it's coming from, or whatever name we might give to that. It's something that's more perhaps future based, we could say, in the sense of the stories or threads we might write about in the future. Something that I've definitely found in this practice is that it really awakens that precognitive ability and capacity that I believe all of us have. And I know Steiner wrote about all of the great number of senses that we have beyond kind of seeing, hearing, touch, taste, smell. And I really believe that precognition is something that we all have, and might be more some of us might be more aware of that, or it might be more developed in some of us. We might really feel that, yes, that's a skill I have. Knowing what's happening just before it happens. Just have a little, I can see you all on screen, so can I just have a little wave from those present if anybody feels, yeah, I have a little bit of that precognitive, yeah, lots of people, yeah. And I think it's something that often it's like we're a little bit shy about saying, yeah, I'm putting 2 hands up to that. I definitely have that. And it might be as simple as having a conversation with someone and think, oh, I knew you were going to say that. Or just before the phone rings, knowing the phone's going to ring and knowing who it's going to be. So this practice done regularly can definitely really, I believe, can really develop that precognition. So it's nice to dive into that. So by setting aside any inner critic that we might have, that monitors our writing, and that might, it's interesting to ask whose voice is that. That could be the voice of our teacher at school, or a parent, or a sibling, or somebody at some point who has maybe criticized, in our view, unfairly our writing. We're really going to set that critic aside and allow ourselves to just completely go into the flow. So without further ado, I'll explain our process for this morning. What I'm going to do is invite us into just a meditative listening to a poem And the poem that I've chosen, I hear in One Spirit circles very often, and it's a part of this poem I remember seeing on a little postcard advertising a One Spirit open day, and it certainly drew me in, so it felt appropriate to use that. I'm just going to read that poem through twice. And what I invite you to do during that reading is simply allow the words to flow over you. We can let go of all the, teachings from our English literature classes at school where we have to analyze the poem or work out what's going on with it. We can literally just allow it to flow over us like a balm. We're going to listen to that twice. I'll read it through twice, and then I haven't pre-selected a line from the poem, but I'm going to choose a line from the poem that calls to me, and we're going to use that for our wild writing as a jump-off line. So what I mean by a jump-off line is we write that every time our writing is stalling, every time we feel that we're forcing it or trying to write something in particular. If I write this, it's going to look really good. We're not aiming to look good. We're not going for a finished piece of writing. We're simply allowing words to come to us fast and furiously. We're going to write as fast as we can. Our pen will not leave the page. I'm going to set a timer. So the usual time I would invite people to write for is 20 minutes. We'll do 10 minutes this morning, and then you can see how the process is, and then I'll invite questions afterwards. So I'm going to read the poem twice, then I'm going to say the jump off line, and then set the timer, and we'll go into our 10 minutes uninterrupting wild writing. So say if the jump off line was, I want to tell you, then I would start my 10-minute writing by writing, I want to tell you, and then whatever comes into my mind, however sensible, crazy, wild, calm, whatever comes in, and just write. Pen not leaving the page as fast as you can. We're not going for neat handwriting here. If you can write by hand, that is the best way to really get involved with this process. If that's not possible for any reason, you can write on a keyboard. Try not to look at what you're writing, so putting a sheet of paper over the screen can be helpful to just blank that out. I've forgotten what I said as the jump off line. I want to tell you. So say if it was that. Then each time I come to a point where I feel I'm forcing what I'm writing, I'm thinking about it, then I would stop and write, I want to tell you. So I write the jump off line again. If at any point I pause because I think, oh, I don't know what to write, then I'll just write the jump off line. I want to tell you. And if nothing's coming, I write, I want to tell you, I want to tell you, I want to tell you. Whatever the jump off line is, I'll write that over and over again until something comes in, and then I start writing again until either I pause, the time runs out, or I feel as though I'm forcing it again. And if the time hasn't run out, I go back to the jump off line again. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? So yeah, and we're not worrying about grammar, punctuation is out of the mix here. Pen's not going to leave the page. We're just going to write. So I invite you now to seat yourself in a comfortable position. I'm going to read from a book that I think just about every One Spirit minister that I know has. It's John O'Donoghue's To Bless the Space Between Us, a book of blessings. If anybody doesn't own this book, I highly recommend it. I think probably everyone has a copy already. And the poem is A Morning Offering. I'm going to read it through twice, and then I'll offer our jump off line. So just allow these words to flow over you. A Morning Offering by John O'Donoghue. I bless the night that nourished my heart to set the ghosts of longing free into the flow and figure of dream that went to harvest from the dark, bread for the hunger no one sees. All that is eternal in me welcomes the wonder of this day, the field of brightness it creates, offering time for each thing to arise and illuminate. I place on the altar of dawn the quiet loyalty of breath, the tent of thought where I shelter, waves of desire I am sure to, and all beauty drawn to the eye. May my mind come alive today to the invisible geography that invites me to new frontiers, to break the dead shell of yesterdays, to risk being disturbed and changed. May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more. I bless the night that nourished my heart to set the ghosts of longing free into the flow and figure of dream that went to harvest from the dark, bread for the hunger no one sees. All that is eternal in me welcomes the wonder of this day, the field of brightness it creates, offering time for each thing to arise and illuminate. I place on the altar of dawn the quiet loyalty of breath, the tent of thought where I shelter, waves of desire I am sure to, and all beauty drawn to the eye. May my mind come alive today to the invisible geography that invites me to new frontiers, to break the dead shell of yesterdays, to risk being disturbed and changed. May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but to do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more. And our jump off line is to break the dead shell of yesterdays, to break the dead shell of yesterdays. And our writing time starts now. And that is 10 minutes of wild writing completed. So if you want to just bring your writing to a close. I won't say complete your sentence because we weren't writing in sentences. We were writing. So that actually felt like quite a short time to me, and maybe that's because I'm used to writing for longer at a time. But I wonder, did it feel a short or long time to any of you? What I'd love to do now is to move into some sharing, not to share what we've written because that is private to us today. To share about the experience of writing in that way and collectively in this group. And for anybody watching the recording, I would love to hear how it is going through the recording and then joining us for the 10 minutes of writing. I'd really love to hear how that was. We are still recording, so if anybody's happy to share experiences while we're recording, then we'll include that in the recorded video that then gets uploaded to YouTube and the link sent to members. For anybody who would prefer to share once we stop recording, then that will be available too. So to begin with, is there anything that anybody wants to share while we're still recording? Yeah, Niall.
Thanks very much. That was lovely, by the way. Thanks very much for organizing. And I struggle with beginnings when I write. And I've got a ceremony next week that I don't struggle with ideas, but I struggle with beginning and carrying through. It's really, really nice to not have to worry about beginnings and be able to get straight into a flow. So that's really helped. I really needed that to be able to then later today, start without having to begin, just flow into it. Yeah, very nice.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I meet very few people who can come to the blank page or in painting to the blank canvas and just start. There's a real interesting hesitancy, isn't there, of like, oh, it's almost like on the one hand, the blank page or the blank canvas is so precious. My goodness, am I good enough to bring myself to this page or to this canvas? Or on another way of looking at it is often that yeah, there's that aspect of I've got to get it right first time, which I don't know any writer that doesn't edit their work. And once I started working as a creativity coach with a lot of poets, realizing that in terms of poetry, a lot of people have this real feeling that when they put that poem on the page, it's got to be absolutely done first time. Like, no, you can edit poems just like you can edit pages and pages of prose. So yeah, that getting started and just coming to it wildly and freely is great. And whatever we're doing, ceremony writing, if there is that feeling of a block, just take some line or some aspect of the ceremony and use that as a jump off line. Set your timer 10-15 minutes wild writing with that jump off line and just see what comes through, because maybe there's something just there that's like wanting to pour in. And I totally hear you on lots of ideas and the getting started. So you could maybe condense one of your ideas into a jump off line and then write on that and see where that takes you. And I'd love to hear from you, Niall, as to if you use that, how does that then I'd love to hear in the future. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Sass.
So like you, I am a bit of a journaler. anyway, I don't use this method. And as I'm writing, I'm just like, why am I not using this method? Because it's bringing out a whole different aspect. I was writing about the same kind of things I would write about, but I suppose doing it this way and just rewriting that jump off point, all of a sudden I'm writing about the qualities of shells and how that relates to yesterday. That and it's just, I haven't even got sentences right now to explain what's going on, because it's just firing off all these different aspects and just ways I haven't looked at things before. And that's just in 10 minutes. And I absolutely want to carry on writing for another 40 odd minutes or something. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for it.
Oh, that's really lovely to hear. Yeah, it does open up some other aspect of our writing, or some other place even. It feels like an actual place to me when I do this. And yeah, it certainly gives us then threads or themes to write then on in some other way. So this is presenting things that it's almost like, you know, going, hey, look at me, I want to be written about, or I want to be written about in this way. And to then go back through, it's great. Something I do not necessarily love to do, but need to do after I've done a session of wild writing, is I go back through it, because I write so fast and so wildly that I can't always, if I come back to it next week, I can't always read what I've written. So often I will just go through, not to edit, not to correct grammar, not to correct spelling, just to above certain words, I'll just write the word that I was like, oh yeah, I know that says roars, okay, but I've written it in such a scrawly way, or in you know, with letters that don't comprise the word, and I know that's what it was, so I'll just make a little note. Or I might just do some bullet points of themes that I want to write about, and then we can come to that writing in some new way. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, 20 minutes is a good time, good length of time to set the timer for. So yeah, but I'd love to hear how, I've never done 40. I think my hand would probably get too tired, but I'd love to hear about that. If yeah, please do let us know. Does anyone else want to share on the recording before we? Yeah, Helen.
Hi, and thank you for that. I just wanted to say what a brilliant idea it is, a brilliant concept to actually have that line to go back to when you find yourself too much in your head, or suddenly not finding the words are flowing. It's incredible the way it just really just like a springboard and set off in motion again. So that is brilliant, and I can see how I'm going to be bringing this into another side project that I'm working on. So thank you.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, it is a real springboard. And what I used to use was when my writing like stalled or blocked, was I used to write, I am writing, I am writing, I am writing. I have the words, I have the words, I have the words. And somehow that didn't do it for me. Somehow that, I know it's recommended, it works for a lot of writers, but somehow for me it was keeping me in the place where I was very aware that my writing was stuck or blocked. And so you're absolutely right, Helen, it's a real springboard forward, isn't it? Yeah. Susan, I saw your hand up there.
Yes, just to say I really enjoyed that, and how helpful it was to have that kickoff sentence, and how that actually became like a thread, or like I was thinking of Ariadne's thread. I didn't write about that, but like, you know, it just gave me this orientation to come back to when I needed it. And how when you rang the bell or whatever the sound was you used, I absolutely jumped, and I realized just how absorbing the whole thing was, and rich, and yeah, amazing. So thank you very much.
Bless you. Yeah, and thank you, Laurie Wagner, for introducing me to it. Yeah, Catherine.
I found it because I was a teacher for a long time, or a lot of my life, I still had to put punctuation in. You know, it was just, and it was really hard not to, and or stopping my sentences and starting a new sentence. So, you know, I let go of it, but it took a while to get to that point. And the other thing, somewhere along the way, in what you were saying earlier, I had this feeling that I shouldn't go into sadness or upsetting things. And there was one point where I halted because I could feel myself going into that. And I kind of felt, no, I won't. And it, after I did the writing for 10 minutes, I had a memory of a photo I saw yesterday of 14 pheasant eggs that were about to open, and then the person sent them all, they think, had been attacked and eaten. And so that, I think, would have been the place I would have gone to if I hadn't gone through the whole thing. So it's just interesting, you know, how something current can come through, even though we might be talking about something in the past or the future. So I just found that journey quite a revealing journey in itself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, if I gave the impression that you know, there's certain emotions that aren't welcome here, that's absolutely not the case. You know, bring whatever comes through to this kind of writing, and I would say bring whatever is coming to all types of writing. Yeah, we maybe it was when I was saying about like, not to be, there's types of journaling where we're very much reflecting on the past. This is very much in the moment. So yeah, to clarify, the writing is in the moment. What we write about, what might come through to us as a thread to be written about in some other way in the future, yeah, that might be some past memory, or it might be a particular emotion. At any point that we feel, oh, right, I'm really trying now to write about this thing, that's when we go to that springboard again, that kickoff and that jump off line to do that. And yeah, Catherine, I hear what you're saying about like the punctuation and the sentences. It takes as long as it takes to let go of that. And for me, when I first started doing this process, I thought I was going to get in trouble. Like I'm going to get told off if I do this. Hey, guess what? Nobody's told me off. I've been doing it for ages. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Sarah, yeah.
Thanks, Deb. That was a very interesting process. I agree about the punctuation and the capital letters, and I find it hard to let go of that. I mean, I did to some extent, but there's quite a few full stops and commas in what I've written. But what I did find was it was like almost a process of therapy. My 10 minutes wasn't long enough. I felt like I was digging deeper into what was coming up for me and almost getting answers in a funny kind of way. But that I needed to carry on, that something was holding on and saying, no, you can't go there. You know? So I think it will be really useful to carry on doing that, but for longer, and allow it to go deeper, because the mind seems to want to stay on the surface, but there's something pulling and saying, no, you can go deeper with this if you just let it happen. Yeah, but I didn't have long enough to go as deep as I felt I needed to go with what was coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a deeply therapeutic practice. And as we only have an hour together on Zoom this morning, that's why, like, we've I decided to keep it to 10 minutes. Yeah, in 20 minutes of this practice, you can really get to a lot. When I'm doing work with groups, and we'll often then like actually share our writing. So we'll know before we start the writing which writing we're going to share and which we're not. And of course, there's always the proviso that if anybody doesn't want to share their writing, they don't have to. And we share into the group because it's so interesting that when we write collectively, there's that collective energy and that collective dive into what is to be uncovered. And we'll see like the similar themes written completely differently, but similar themes coming up. And often people will say, well, I feel like I've gone into some kind of rhyme as they read it out loud. So it is useful to like read it out loud afterwards to yourself and hear it as well. So we read simply for it to be witnessed. There's no critique and there's no commentary. Decided not to do that today because it's a short session. But yeah, then you have like that personal deep dive and that collective deep dive as well, which, then go into another session of wild writing immediately with a different jump off line. And yeah, you can really go to some amazing depths. And because we're open to what's coming to us from whatever source we care to label that as coming, whether we say that's from the universe or it's from God or it's from Allah or wherever we say it's coming from, it's certainly coming from or from our soul, somewhere really, I think, ancient and really deep. And kind of on that note of like diving in deeply, over time I've collected some jump off lines that are, or kick off lines or springboards that aren't necessarily from poems, or they might be from a poem that I've written. So I'll just share some of those now, so that they're on the recording, and then we'll stop the recording, and I'll put these in a document as well, so that could get mailed out with the recording as well. So here are some prompts for that wild writing, that fastly free flow writing. I feel like I've got someone else's teeth in when I say that. So just a selection of prompts. Today's sermon is a few things I want to write about, things I don't want to write about, things I didn't know I loved. Here's what I want you to know. What if I were to tell you? People don't like to talk about 9 surprising things. It's the smallest things. It's the way what spirit wants me to know right now is. And I could go on for pages and pages of my book. I shall not. I'll leave it at that because I think that's plenty. And if there's a particular, line that you hear, it could be in a play, or you're reading a book, or stood at the bus stop and you overhear something, just note that down and then do a session using that line. Of course, what I'm thinking now is like, oh my goodness, let's all get together again and do like a 2 or 3 hour workshop and share our writing as well. Maybe that's something we can think about for the future if there's interest. So yeah, if nobody's got anything else that they want to share on the recording, then I guess we can stop recording now. Thank you so much for being on this recording.
All I was going to say is, before I stop recording, could you just very quickly talk about your next talk?
Oh gosh, yes.
Would that be okay? And then if I
Certainly
stop
will.
recording, and then we can go back
then
to,
we can go
yeah,
back to sharing. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're not going to even edit that out, because wild writing is all about being totally unedited. I could see Sass doing this, and I thought, oh right, yes, let's wave goodbye at the end of the recording, which looks like I will do that at the end. So yeah, the next session that I'm facilitating for Osmic is transformational painting. And this is a way of painting that I happened upon in my creative exploration. I don't know if anybody else paints in that way. I haven't looked for people, because it's quite difficult to decide what other people might call it. So I call it transformational painting. And for me, it's been an amazing tool for letting go of old narratives, letting go of things that perhaps experiences that I want to learn and grow from, and I don't want to keep retelling the narrative to myself, because it's just not helpful. So it's a way of letting go of that and retaining the learning and the growth, not saying I'm just not going to think about it, I'm going to put it in a cupboard and there it's going to stay forever. It's about processing it. So I started off using this particular form of transformational painting for experiences that I felt were negative. And then I realized, why am I doing that? I can actually use it for positive experiences as well. So I'll be doing a session where I'll be demonstrating this form of transformational painting, talking about it, and there'll be space for questions. We won't all be then painting together, although I do run online painting sessions of different formats. So it will be a demonstration. So I've got an overhead camera over my painting table, so you can actually see what I'm doing, and I'll talk through the process. So at the end of that session, you'll be able to go away with all the knowledge you need to do that process for yourself. And that is on Wednesday, the 17th of June, I think.
14th.
Oh, 14th, Wednesday, the 14th of June, again at 11 a.m. Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to that as well. Thank you for reminding me to.
Thank you.